We've been discussing the 13 principles of the faith, which I call the 13 descriptions of reality. We've done the first 5, which describe the Creator. Now, the next 4 discuss the communication from that Creator. And the first item of this, number 6 of the 13, is that God does communicate prophecy through prophets. He communicates with us through prophets. Now, that really says 2 things. One is that it's prophecy, not just a communication, meaning that anybody can get inspiration, a thought in their head, perhaps quite a few thoughts, quite a deep insight, and it could be inspired by God, it could have come from God, may very well have been, but it's personal. That's something that occurred to them, and for them to work out and for them to deal with it, behave accordingly, but it's a personal insight. What we're talking about is prophecy, which is a distinct message to share with others, to promote to others that they have to change their behavior or that they should do certain things to protect themselves or to accomplish something. It's as a message of God, and it's clear. And the second thing of that statement is that it comes through prophets. In other words, not through just anyone, but through someone of stature that would be a prophet. Now, what kind of person would be a prophet? It would be someone who has to be very wise. He has to know a lot about the Creator. He has to have studied the instructions, and he has to follow the instructions. You have to show self-discipline and well-meaning and high intelligence, righteousness, all these things of a godly man you would expect. And then at such a person, we would say that that person, he might become a prophet. Now, how do we know he has become a prophet? So there's a test. We have a test. And the test is, the prophet wants to, well, I guess first he would get the prophecy, but now he wants to share with us. We say, wait a minute, how do we know you're a prophet? So, well, test me. So what's the test? He has to predict the future exactly, and then we see if it comes about. Now, let me give you an example. I predict that tomorrow at 2:30 in Hyde Park under the old oak tree, it's going to rain for 2.5 inches and then stop. And that's tomorrow. So then we wait, and we go and we go to Hyde Park, stand under the oak tree, take a cup by measure, and see if it rains just at 2:30 for 2.5 inches. No detail of what he said can go wrong. Otherwise, he's a false prophet. God will give him the sign, and so, it'll have to be proven right. Can't be a generality. Can't be say it's going to rain tomorrow, or going to be a guy standing with a cup somewhere. It has to be exact. You can test him like this a few times, depending on your comfort level with how well you know the guy and how certain you are that he's qualified to be a prophet. But after that, once he's passed the test, sufficient to give you the comfort, then he's a prophet. Now, what he says is a message from God with one provision. And that provision is that he never contradict the Torah that we already have, the instructions we already have. If he would, we would immediately know that he's a false prophet. He might do something that the Torah says not to do, but I'm not telling you it's now okay. I'm just saying for this one occasion that happened, and there's a story with Elijah on top of Mount Carmel. He insisted that to bring a sacrifice as a test between him and the prophets of the Baal, of the idol, and normally you're not allowed to bring a sacrifice, so he was contravening the Torah instruction, but he said just this one time for this purpose, and so that's okay. But if you would say, no, the law has changed, that's not acceptable. You would know he's a false prophet. So that's the idea of prophecy. And I might mention that also the nature of the prophecy is an overwhelming experience. We're told that they go into something like a catatonic trance, and they're beside themselves. They're speaking or they're hearing from the Creator of the universe. That's no small thing. That's a completely different being. It's like overwhelming to meet your Maker. Normally we have to die in order to do that. So it's really an overwhelming experience. But it happens, and obviously that's why they have to prepare for it. That's why they have to be of such a high stature of behavior and wisdom to be able to handle it. So that's the idea of prophecy.